So, I got asked. I watched Skyman last night, and before we get into that, which a movie I absolutely loved,
Cool.
I grew up in Maryland, as you can tell. So I got asked how you, as a Florida guy, how did you get attached to and direct the Blair Witch Project?
Well, I went to school at UCF in Orlando, and that's where I met Ed Sanchez, who co-directed Blair with me. And he
Okay.
was from Maryland, Germantown area. And when we decided to shoot the movie, we were looking for some good woods, basically, that didn't look like all the pine trees and palm fronds you get in Florida. So the Maryland woods and that whole area with a lot of its kind of Civil War, folklore and all was like the perfect backdrop. Plus he had a townhouse up there that he was renting that we could use as our base camp. So that's really why we shot in Maryland. It was just
Okay.
economically worked out the best, and the woods look great in October for a spooky movie.
Oh yeah, I used to love going there after the movie came out.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so your new movie Skyman definitely has some elements of Blair Witch Project. The movie surprisingly has a lot of heart in it too. I think it's a lot of its performance of Michael as Carl Merryweather. How did you find this amazing actor?
Well, it was certainly a film that kind of got back to my sort of documentary, faux documentary roots, and I wanted to do something that was simple and intimate and heartfelt, and basically telling the story about an experiencer that was a little bit of an oddball, slightly Asperger, and it was, but I didn't want him being a kook or like the stereotypical whack job that some may come to mind when you're talking about this kind of subculture. And so I held a bunch of auditions in LA. We had like 4 or 5 open calls, and I knew I wanted to go with an unknown that wasn't overly exposed at the time. So you could kind of draw the conclusion whether it was real or not when you're watching the film. And Michael came in, and he just the initial read was really strong, but there was this one, like there's a scene at the very end of the film where he's just talking directly to camera, like giving his like last will, almost testament on why he was doing what he was doing, and he delivered that part of the script to the audition camera just like spot on. And I knew from there that that was my guy. And I think he came into the second or third audition open call, and so then once I had him landed, I just needed to find a good sister pairing for him. Then that's when Nicolette came in later on. But he not only nailed the role, but in spirit, he so embraced the process by which we shot the film, which was very organic over time. There were times where it was just he and I at like a UFO festival where he's in character and I'm in character, and we're just shooting scenes in the crowds, and it was just awesome. And he was completely embracing that whole process. So hats off to him. He made the movie.
Yeah, there's a couple of shots. I guess there's a parade going on at this Oregon
Yeah.
UFO festival where you just stand still and you do like a whole time lapse video. I think it was
Yeah,
pretty awesome.
an amazing festival. It's a lot of fun, and part of the attempt with those scenes were sort of conveying a lot of the kitschiness that's involved with the UFO, marketing and subculture and all. But it's also deep within all that craziness. There are very serious people going to these panels and taking these experiences very seriously. And he's one of those folks looking for answers amidst all this kind of commercialism, right? And so I liked that juxtaposition of his character amidst these sort of festivities that you see at these festivals. And we also went to the Roswell one, which was, a pretty big deal. And so, but they're a lot of fun. I mean, you can
Yeah.
really get carried away at those things.
Um, I used to live in the Los Angeles area and always driving out to Vegas. Victorville was like a cool, fun spot. And I guess you
Yeah.
shot nearby there in Apple Valley. Beautiful landscape. It was kind of perfect for this setting. Why did you pick that area?
Well, I was really kind of drawn to the desert. I wrote the script out of Black Rock Campground, just north of Joshua Tree,
Hmm.
and brought my RV out there and stayed for a month out in the desert, off the grid, and just wrote the script. And there's something. I mean, I completely understand why people find a lot of spirituality out in the desert. It's a very connective place you're under this blanket of stars every night, and it's very much a character in the film. It's kind of provides this spiritual and visual backdrop that I think is analogous to us as human beings being aliens on our own planet. When you'll see some of those wide shots that we have in the film, Carl and his little bug out shelter look like a space outpost, on a foreign kind of planet. And so there was a lot of themes involved with shooting it in the desert that I like a lot. And it's just a remote place, you could totally see how somebody may see an alien or out there. And it has a little bit of suspense horror elements to it, like you had brought up, because you're isolated. There's no one there to help you if anything does go wrong. So it was a perfect setting for a story like this.
Talk about the set. I guess it was the HG, his bunker, the 2 containers. Like, talk about building those. That had to have been like a lot of work, actually.
Yeah. Sean Carroll, who was our production designer on the film, and Joe Restaino, who was our producer, who kind of helped put all this together. I mean, once we shot a lot of our kind of extraneous stuff at the festivals, and we did a lot of scenes in and around Apple Valley, but the principal photography, like the 2 weeks that we shot in the desert, we had to build the HDH, the high ground house, if you will. And so Sean got all those props together. I mean, if you drive, I'm sure you have, if you've gone through Victorville and Apple Valley in that area, you'll see houses with just loads of junk in the yard. Yeah. We would go to these houses and ask people, hey, you want to sell this stuff? And they're like, what? All right. So Sean was able to get a lot of this amazing props that you would spend an arm and a leg for in LA, and got it for next to nothing out there. And my good buddy that lives in Apple Valley, his name is Ray Warren. He's also a co-producer on the film. He procured the land, the property out there, as well as the 2 containers that we could use as our base, as well as that awesome little RV, that little silver RV that we have out there. So he got a hold of all that stuff. So it was a real collaborative effort, for everybody involved. And but Sean did a fantastic job making that place look like it's been there for 40 years, and it was really
wow. Yeah, I would have thought you just found it like that, but wow, you really built it from scratch, and it does look amazing. Yeah, and it's its own character in its way too, so it's great.
Absolutely, yeah.
What about the unfinished windmill? Was that already there?
Yeah. No, that was brought out. It was one of the many projects Carl's been involved with, didn't quite finish. But at one place that we got a lot of the junk from that populates the interior of the containers, they had this long metal structure, and I said, God, we got to use that for something. And Sean's like, yeah, let's just we loaded it on a flatbed trailer and hauled it out there, and it could be a windmill, like they started to like a windmill generator or something, and they never finished it, so they stuck that in the ground, and we use that. And it's sort of analogous to Carl's whole life. There were a lot of unfinished projects, and that was sort of it. So, but yeah, we had a great time setting that stuff up and shooting out there. And I lived on set in my RV for almost a month.
Oh, wow.
While we were shooting the film, and Mike Selly, the lead actor, was out there in an RV as well. So we really lived it day in and day out.
I love it. I don't want to give away the ending too much, but I would say the sound design was really killer, which helps add suspense to ever the craziness that's going on at the very end of the movie.
Thank you.
Who would you work with for that,
Well, basically, I did the sound design myself.
Nice.
I edited it and did the sound design. Again, the approach I was trying to take with this was to keep things real minimal. I didn't want it to feel too overproduced. And so on the music side, we had Don Miggs, who's a friend of ours that helped do the score. He also recruited Billy Corgan from Smashing Pumpkins.
Yeah,
for us. So they did a really nice, tasteful, suspenseful, but yet very character-driven score for the film, which was great. And the sound design, I wanted to sort of like feel realistic. And it's funny, I've never done work in the film where I was like purposely putting like wind noise in the shots and trying to make it more flawed than it was. but I wanted it to feel like it was real. So, but then there's those moments where you really want stuff to punch through, like the low hum that Carl's talking about and all that. So, so over the course of several months, I took my hand at doing the sound design. I typically don't do that, but and it worked out pretty well. Like the less is more approach worked out for this particular film. I don't think I would attempt it on a normal narrative, but
Yeah.
this doc style thing, you can kind of get away with it.
We did an amazing job. I love the movie. Everyone check it out, Skyman. Anything else you're working on you're allowed to talk about before I let you go?
Yeah, we're doing a horror series, an online series in Florida called Black Veil, which we shot the pilot episode right before the pandemic, but we've got 5 more episodes that we're going to be doing. And so that's going to be a lot of fun. So that's coming up once we can get back into production again.
It's funny. So I grew up in Maryland, moved to LA. Now we live in Orlando.
It's just the opposite of me.
I know.
That's funny. Well, go O-Town.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much, man. We'll talk down the road. Okay.
All right, man. Take care. Bye-bye.